And welcome to this here in California this morning meditation and beginning of the week. And as a way of contextualizing today's meditation and this week's meditation overall, the teachings, I'd like to suggest that the idea in Buddhist practice as a whole, but in including meditation practice, is, I see someone wants to turn on the captions for the hearing impaired. I don't know how that's done. I can look into it, but I believe that that's something that the user needs to do somehow rather than the broadcaster. So you might want to look around and see in your settings, but I'll look into it and if there's anything we can do on our side. And so in so going to start over again. The word whole, the concept of being whole, is I believe central to this whole Buddhist endeavor. That it's about our Buddhist practice is about our whole life, and it's about the whole of who we are. And the Buddhist meditation also is bringing all of who we are. All is included, not all at once, which would be chaotic, but the spirit of it, or the approach of attention, of awareness, it's cultivating an awareness which is expansive enough that nothing is considered outside of the whole. And so when we sit today, is there some way to not be confused by all the different things that are going on, but to sit peacefully, easefully, with an awareness which is inclusive, or we know it's inclusive of all of who we are, including what we don't know about, including what we're is offline or unconscious or we haven't discovered yet. So to assume a meditation posture, and I like to think of the posture as involving all of our body, that every part of our body is somehow positioned in a manner that supports awareness, attention, kind of a waking up to the whole. So if you're sitting in a chair or on a couch, kind of in an ordinary way, to have both feet firmly planted on the floor. Not one leg crossed over the other and then dangling in the air. So there's a kind of a grounding of attention, of presence with each foot. And if you're using a backrest, to be a little bit careful you're not over-relying on it. Of course, sometimes we have to rely on it, but not over-relying on it so that part of your torso goes offline. Like you don't have to think about it. I know that there are people have back pain. I've had very bad back pain at times. And you have to use a backrest or lay down or something. But to still position yourself in a meditation posture that seems to somehow or other take into account the whole of your body. So the whole of your body is present. Adjusting your hands. So the position of the hands is one that supports being here, now, fully. And generally, the idea of closing your eyes in meditation is meant to do so not to necessarily shut out sight. Some people meditate with their eyes open, but to make it easier to open the inside awareness, the embodied awareness of being in a body, to let that become more fully part of your experience. Eyes open tend to take the attention out of ourselves into the world around us. And here we want to go inside of ourselves so we can expand the embodied awareness to be undistracted from the whole here of our personal experience. Another way of expanding into the whole is to gently, without doing too much, taking some fuller breaths so the expansion of the belly and the rib cage encourages a spread of awareness, an awakening of sensations more fully in the body, in the torso. And as you exhale longer than usual, relax, long exhale to relax the body. And then to let the breathing return to normal, letting breathing breathe itself. And for you now to open up as broadly, globally as you can to, from the inside of your body, become aware as broadly as you can, the body. Sensing physically how the body experiences itself from the inside out. So not so much in the control tower, thinking about or watching or doubting, but to feel and sense the global body in whatever way that is easy. And as you exhale, to soften and relax into this global body. And as you breathe in, to allow or receive the expanding torso, to allow your awareness to spread with the inhale to a global experience of the torso and maybe beyond. And as you exhale, this global awareness of the body gathers, comes back in together, relaxed and soft. As you breathe in, to gently expand the awareness to include your thinking mind, not to be involved in it, but to know that it's there and within a expanded space. So thinking is not the central thing going on. It's part of the whole. And as you exhale, to relax the thinking mind. And then in the middle of the whole of who you are, at the center, let there be the grounding place, the settling place in the torso and the belly, where the sensations of inhale begin, and where the exhale ends, last sensations of the exhale. And follow the inhale as an expansion into the whole. And the exhale as a return to the settling place, where the whole of who you are settles and gathers into a rich, vital, core, settling place, grounding place. there's anything that takes you away from the experience of breathing, welcome it into the whole. Let it be part of the whole so that you can stay with your breathing. And as you inhale, awareness expands throughout the body to include it all without being caught or lost in anything. Everything is included, but only the breathing is at the center. can feel the whole through the silence of the mind. Even if you have some thinking going on, the wider silence of sensing, being aware. The silence that includes it all. And as we come to the end of this sitting, imagine that as the meditation ends, you can still be sitting, but as you open your eyes, that you can see the people of your life in a situation where nothing needs to be done. You don't have to say anything or do anything. The people are going around their business. They know you're there, but it's wonderful that you're there, but there's no need for you to do anything. And you're allowed just to be quiet coming out of your meditation in the midst of all the people, strangers, colleagues, friends, neighbors. And in this kind of peaceful way, to include them in your heart, to include all beings in your heart, as you gaze with them without the need for anything to happen. No need to judge, no need to protect, no need to care for or do anything. In this peaceful way, to gaze kindly upon everyone, include everyone in your awareness. Allowing your whole heart, your heartfulness, to encompass everyone. And with this big, broad heartfulness, wishing well for everyone. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free of their suffering. And may it be that this open heartfulness guides how you interact with people today. May it be that your heart supports you to make this a better world for the people you encounter. May all beings be happy. Thank you. So hello and welcome to the beginning of a new series. And this series will go for 2 weeks, 10 days. And it'll be on the topic of the Eightfold Path. And in a sense, I gave an introductory talk to this that you don't have to listen to, but yesterday morning, Sunday morning at IMC. And, and I'm happy to continue now on this topic. And so the Eightfold Path is sometimes called the Noble Eightfold Path because it's intimately associated with the nobility or the dignity or the fullness or the freedom of the Buddha and the people who have followed his path. There's something very profound about this eightfold path. And there's a way in which we might consider that this is the most central, most important teachings of the Buddha. And we see that whether it actually happened or is how the tradition has recorded it, the very first teaching the Buddha gave was on the Eightfold Path. And the last teaching he gave before he died was the Eightfold Path. After he was enlightened, he went to find the people who he had practiced with before this, who hadn't become enlightened, to tell them his good news, that he had found what they were looking for. And the first thing he said to them when he found them is that there is a middle way between indulging in the senses and denial of the senses, of asceticism. And what is this middle way? It's the Eightfold Path. And usually, I'll recite what these are. Usually it's done in English with the word right. And but it means something like more like complete or consummate. It's often in modern Buddhism, the Eightfold Path is kind of introduced as the beginning teaching for Buddhism, for beginners. In the time of the Buddha, it seemed like the teachings on the Eightfold Path were the end of the path. It was teachings relevant for people who are most mature along the path. And so what's wonderful is that it functions both ways. And to think that you know what the Eightfold Path is because you've had them before, learned them before, is to not understand that they're actually very advanced practices as well, or they represent the full culmination. And so rather than calling it each of the 8 steps of the Eightfold Path right view, right intention, I like to this 2 weeks call them whole. There's a whole view. There's the whole attitude. I'll explain that, why I say that way. There's the whole speech. There is whole action. There is whole lifestyle. There is whole effort. There is whole mindfulness and whole concentration. Or wholesome, maybe, is a nice way to include the whole. And so we'll go into this, but the idea is that it includes all of who we are. It's not meant to be exclusion of anything. This idea of not sensual desire, not being lost in that world, and not being involved in asceticism, included this idea of the whole path, the whole life is the lived life. It's the life that we live wholly and completely. And it's not a disconnection from life. Before his enlightenment, the Buddha did practice the meditation practices taught by the great meditation teachers of his time, but 2 of them. But both of them taught what's called the formless jhanas. They told the deepest form of experiencing a complete nothingness, or a complete neither perception or non-perception, a kind of radical kind of non-experience of the usual world that we live in. And the Buddha was offering something different. He was offering how to become whole and complete. And rather than the deep meditation practice into a kind of nothingness, it was a deep meditation into the fullness of who we are in the most unified, peaceful, harmonious way in which we can really experience this lived life of who we are. So he began this when he came to his fellow practitioners, who we assume were really good practitioners. He presented them the Eightfold Path. At the end of his life, he was dying. He was dying outdoors under the canopy of 2 sal trees, majestic trees, kind of the redwood trees of northern India. And people knew that he was dying, and people came to see him, and he allowed people to come to visit him. And he was fading away. And there was a wanderer, a non-Buddhist seeker of truth, who heard that he was dying nearby, and had heard that it was quite rare to have someone be born and be a Buddha, and to be able to encounter one. So he went that night to visit the Buddha to ask his questions. And he approached Ananda, the Buddha's attendant, and said, "I'd like to ask the Buddha a question." And Ananda said, no, he's weak, he's dying, this is not the time. And so Sabada, this wanderer, asked again. "No," said Ananda. He asked again. And I think Ananda said no a third time, which in India, ancient India, was really a big deal. But the Buddha overheard this. And the Buddha said this in reply. The Buddha overheard this conversation between Ananda and Subhadra, and he called to Ananda, "Enough, Ananda. Do not hinder Subhadra. Let him see me. For whatever Subhadra asks me, he will ask in quest of enlightenment, not to annoy me." And so then Subhadra was able to come to the Buddha and ask his question. And he asked the Buddha this question. All the wanderers, the seekers, and the Brahmins who have their sects and have their followers, who are teachers, well-known and famous as founders of schools, and popularly regarded as saints, and he lists a series of them, have they all realized the truth, as they all make out, or have none of them realized it, or have some realized it and some not? So he wants to know, all the other teachers besides you, have any of them realized the truth? So this is like a yes or no answer. Has any of them done this? The Buddha replies this way. He often, when people ask him, what is the truth? Who is it that teaches the truth? He then answers, he doesn't want to answer that question directly, but he answers this way. Enough, Subhadra, never mind whether all or none or some of them have realized the truth. I will teach you the Dhamma, Subhadra. Listen and pay close, and I will speak. Yes. So rather than saying who has the truth, the Buddha is going to say, this is the Dhamma, this is the teachings that I have. Maybe in a sense he's saying maybe this is the truth. So this is his last teaching before he dies. In whatever Dhamma, in whatever teaching and discipline, way of practicing, in whatever Dhamma and discipline, the noble Eightfold Path is not found. No spiritual seeker is found of the first, second, third, or fourth level of awakening. But such spiritual seekers can be found of the first, second, third, and fourth level of the Dhamma and discipline. There, the Noble Eightfold Path is found. Now, Subhadra, in this teaching and discipline, the Noble Eightfold Path is found, and in it are to be found spiritual seekers of the first, second, third, and fourth grade level. Those other schools are devoid of spiritual seekers who have attained these levels of awakening. But if in this one the monks were to live the life of wholeness, the world would not lack the enlightened ones. So here the Buddha is saying he doesn't want to engage in philosophy, he doesn't want to engage in truth claims of the nature of reality, the nature of experience, the nature, of metaphysics. He's saying it's the Noble Eightfold Path that is not as a beginner practice, but the people who have actualized the Noble Eightfold Path in their lives, those who are living wholly and completely in this world, not apart from the world. Often Buddhist monks are considered to be monastics, are considered somehow being separated from the world. In a way they are. They're separated from the ordinary um, uh, social life of the world, or commerce life, or the ordinary ways in which people are kind of caught up in desires and aversions and preoccupations. But they're not separated, they're still part of the world, a part of the whole, holding the whole world in their view, the whole world in their heart, I hope. And this wholeness is represented by the Noble Eightfold Path. And this Eightfold Path here, as I just said, represents the culmination. The first, it comes with some degree of awakening, of being set free, or deep realization. And here is where this, not the Eightfold Path as a teaching appears, but the Eightfold Path appears as a maturation of the spiritual practitioner. We mature into the Eightfold Path. And these people who are fully and wholly here in this wholeness, in this completeness, in this in a rightness, or this harmony of life. So in the beginning of his teaching, at the end of this teaching, the last thing, bracketing the whole 40 years of his teaching, was this idea of the Eightfold Path as being central to what he had to teach. And in doing that, the Eightfold Path is about a personal transformation. It's how we get transformed, is not the truth that we hang on to. It's not hanging on to, this is the true teachings, this is the true experience, this is the true state of mind, in a sense. It's not like a truth, but rather it's a whole way of being transformed. It's a personal change deep in the heart, deep in ourselves, where we become not divided, not caught, not attached in a way that limits us or makes us partial, but a way that by letting go of divisiveness, by letting go of the way we are at war with ourselves, or conflicted with ourselves, or caught in attachment, that we become whole. So that's what I'll do. So we'll go through now the next eight talks, the Eightfold Path, and starting with right view tomorrow. And then the 10th talk will be kind of a conclusion after these, going through the 8. So a very important teaching, and hopefully that you'll understand that these are not only for beginners, but even for the most advanced practitioners of Buddhism, that these are extremely relevant and important. The Noble Eightfold Path. Thank you.